When wrong seems so right and so popular, what hope is there of a change for the better? When people flaunt their rebellion against God and all that is good, where does that leave you? The battle between the gods that we've seen so far in the book of Daniel reaches a peak in the story of Belshazzar's feast. We've already seen how Nebuchadnezzar squirmed when confronted with the ways that the great God empowered a few Hebrew captives. But it wasn't until he spent 7 years groveling in the mud that he eventually gave his heart to the God he'd resisted so much. Nebuchadnezzar did not live too many years after that. He was replaced by his son Nabonidus, who, incensed by his father's disloyalty to the gods of the realm, made it his mission to atone for that great apostasy. He did this by devoting himself to the moon goddess Sin in a distant town in Arabia for 10 years. To do this, he had to place the crown prince, his son Belshazzar, on the throne as caretaker monarch. It seems that Belshazzar was as opposed to God as his own father. He held a huge banquet for all his aristocracy, 1,000 of them, to celebrate the power of his gods over all the gods of his captured peoples, including the Hebrews. It just so happened that that night was a full moon, when the powers of the moon goddess were at their greatest. They needed to be, as the city was surrounded by an invasion force of Medes and Persians. The partying nobles inside were not concerned. Babylon was impregnable, and the goddess Sin was in all her glory. Emboldened by these things, Belshazzar decided to take it to the next level and ask for the sacred vessels stolen from the temple in Jerusalem. This was both a boast of the power of the Babylonian gods and an insult to the God from whose temple those golden and silver goblets were stolen. God does not answer every challenge thrown to him by thoughtless drunks, but this time he did. So mysterious writing appeared on the wall. Just like his grandfather before him, when faced with a perplexing mystery, he called for all his wise men. But this did not include any of the Hebrew captives, indicating maybe a sense of disdain for them. It was only at the urging of his grandmother, simply called Queen in this story, that Daniel was called. Of course, Daniel was able to read the words, which were written in Aramaic, the international language of commerce. The other wise men would have known what these words were too, but their sequence didn't make any sense to them. They sounded like the call of a street merchant reducing the price of the stock, as in a fire sale. This hints at some end game about to be played out. As for the impregnable city, the Median and the Persian armies diverted the river that flowed through it so that they were able to march in with water splashing around their shins rather than being well over their heads. Needless to say, there was a great slaughter that night as the city and the Babylonian Empire fell. Belshazzar tried by his banquet to showcase the triumph of his gods over other nations. That pretense backfired horribly for him, demonstrating yet again the primacy of the great Creator God. So when it comes to us having to endure prevailing evil, don't give up. God has a way of ending entrenched corruption and oppression. The stories in the book of Daniel reinforce the fact that evil is not permanent, and one day it will come to an end. So be encouraged.